guys. Welcome back to another episode on the show, Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And as always, I remain your humble host, your wonderful host, as you guys always say, Darlington. Today's guest is Brigitta Dau. Brigitta is a life coach, Reiki Master, author, speaker, facilitator, and creative synergist. Brigitta, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
All right, so Brigitta, I would also like you to introduce yourself to my audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for having me, first of all. And yes, as you said, I'm a life coach. I'm a Reiki Master. I'm also an author. I have a book that just came out recently that I co-authored with Peggy Cooney. It's called Landing on Your North Star, a guide to finding your life's purpose. That's pretty much so much of what I'm about is about you stepping into the life that you want to create, mostly by becoming the person you want to become. I'm most interested in supporting people in creating a life that they're excited about. And I believe that means, how do you show up in the life that you're living right now? I do believe in living a values-driven life. And when I work with people, I work with them to turn those values into verbs. So it's not like you're just thinking about how your life, how you would like your life to be, but instead it's really, how is it showing up in my life on a daily basis? So how am I really actively participating and living my life in a way that's in alignment with my values? So that's a bit about me.
All right, thank you so much, Brigitta. So let's get into the questions I have here for you.
Yeah.
The journey has taken you from acting in television to becoming a life coach, Reiki Master, author, and speaker. What led you from performing on screen to helping others transform their lives?
That's a great question. I was an actress, professional actress, for about 15 years. So I was on a series in Canada, and it was an international series. So it gave me the opportunity to travel and to meet a lot of people. It also gave me an opportunity to want more and take risks. So that was my doorway to moving to the United States. And the reason I mention that is because the biggest hurdle for me when I came to the United States was getting working papers, was getting a visa. I needed to be able to work in this country if I was going to move here. And little did I know that I was laying the groundwork for what would later be the work that I do with people as a life coach. And that is setting a goal that really asks you to step up, to become the person who you really want to become, and to start manifesting that life that you want to live. Take the risks. You have to step outside of your comfort zone, not way outside your comfort zone, but a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and start to experiment with life a little bit and see where can I grow? What challenges are there for me? What do I have to learn? Who do I have to ask for help from? What do it's exciting to me when people step just outside their comfort zone and take on these bigger challenges, because then we do have that opportunity to let go of all the things that were holding us back. And so when I gave up acting, I had already moved to the United States. I think I'd worked here for probably 10 years, and it was really fun and I really enjoyed it, but the business was starting to change and I was examining why I was still in the business. And this is an important question, I think, for those of us who've been in careers for a while. It's, the reason you got into the business in the first place and the reason for staying in the business can be very different. And it's worthy of a reflection to see, are you getting what it is that you want to get out of your life right now? And it's not to say that I made the wrong choice back in the day. It's just that I'm different now and I might be wanting to experiment and experience different things. And so then that became this point in my life where I had to choose, do I want to double down on this acting career, or do I want to pursue something that allows me for more opportunities to actually connect with people and do the work that I'm here to do? my issue with acting at that time was it was very hard to work without being hired by somebody else, right? So I was waiting to do the work. I was waiting to get the job. I was auditioning to get the job. I enjoyed auditioning, but it was always this relying on someone else for me to then start to do what it is that I really wanted to do. And I found that to be frustrating after 15 years. That got really frustrating for me. And I like to help people. I like to be busy. I like to participate every single day and be creative. And acting was stifling that, which honestly surprised me. But when I realized that, it was then time for me to say, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I staying with it? What is it that I really want? What is the value that I'm hoping acting will give me? And when I figured out what my values were, then I was able to say, oh, I can do a lot of different things. I don't have to only be an actress. I can do all sorts of different things and feel like I'm making a contribution and connecting in a way that means something to me. And so that's when I started to shift into Pilates. So I was a Pilates instructor for a while. I still am. I'm a Pilates instructor. And I was excited about meeting people and working with people in a different way. I was excited about being in a field that was still evolving, where there was still more to learn. And that naturally led to coaching and Reiki. Everything from there has been a natural progression to just more expansion and offering more ways to work with people.
All right. Thank you so much, Brigitta, for that wonderful answer. So, I know you often say that change is inevitable, and is a popular saying as well. Change is inevitable. Growth is a choice. So, what does choosing growth look like in everyday life, practically?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. What does that look like? So growth to me is choosing to shift from being reactive to choice, really, to agency, to deciding to act or not act on your own behalf, as opposed to just living in this reactive, habitual, really, way of thinking. And so by that, I mean, in practical terms, what does that look like? It looks like noticing when I'm flying off the handle for no good reason. When I'm overreacting to somebody cutting me off in traffic. I love using traffic as an opportunity for growth because there's so many opportunities, at least in Los Angeles. People are driving completely unconsciously. And so I can notice my interior world. In other words, my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, my judgments, my beliefs that are running the show at the moment. And I can notice what's going on within me. And that's an opportunity of choice. And that's where I can choose, do I want to have a growth opportunity here? Or do I just want to continue along with life and just let it take me wherever it wants to take me? The more we practice that in everyday life, which I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because I'm a big fan of practicing all of these things that I suggest for people to practice them on the days that really nothing very big is happening. So it's not crunch time. You're not highly reactive. There's nothing really major going on. It's kind of an easy peasy day. Those are the days to practice any kind of personal growth skills, in my opinion, because then you can really dive into it. You can dig into it, and you have the time to notice, what's working for me, what's not. And so to give a personal example of such a thing would be noticing your thoughts. And I've had this before where I've had a scheduled podcast interview and where the person didn't show up. And, what's interesting about that is I can have a lot of thoughts about that. I can have a lot of judgments. I can get really into pointing the finger at the other person, blaming them, making them wrong. Or I can go into insecure shaming stuff myself. I can think, oh, they didn't want to talk to me. They're not interested in me. There's a whole bunch of stories that I can create based on just that one experience in a day. And the truth is, all that really actually happened is I showed up to a Zoom call and nobody was there. And that's the truth. The rest of it is just me making up a story. And that is an opportunity for growth, because then I can say, well, if I'm making up a story, the story I'm making up is, they're flaky or they're not interested in me. Another story could be that maybe we just got our wires crossed. or maybe, and actually when this did happen, the funny thing was it's because they didn't take into account the daylight savings that we have in this country. So they did show up, they thought on time, but they were an hour late because they just got their times wrong. There's nothing there to take personally, but that's an opportunity for growth to me. That's like a day-to-day practicing in real lifetime these growth opportunities so that ultimately, when we're blaming someone else or when we're angry with other people or taking things personally, it doesn't feel good. And we're just not showing up as our best self. So to me, that's a great way of having a day-to-day opportunity of growth.
Okay, Brigitta, thank you so much. So, how your work combines Reiki, coaching, creativity, and personal expression. How do these different practices come together to help people reconnect with themselves?
Yeah, I think that creativity, and also another word for that could be even play, is a missing piece for a lot of people in their personal growth or spiritual growth, or both. Because when we are creative or playful, when we are spontaneous, when we allow ourselves to step away from the busy days and just be creative, we start to become comfortable with that uncomfortable zone, I call. So again, creating change or change, let me start over. Change happens just outside our comfort zone, right? So in order to get comfortable in that uncomfortable zone, we need to have some experience with it. Creativity is the way we do that. And we do it in a very safe and nourishing way. So my favorite way to encourage people to bring creativity into their days is to pull out a piece of paper and a pencil and just start doodling. Give yourself 5 minutes a day to doodle. Or you can also just notice something. So open your eyes right now, whatever your eyes land on, notice what color it is. And then for the rest of the day, just notice how many times you notice that color. Those are creative processes. That's just you giving yourself a chance to play. The reason this helps when creating a little bit more comfort with that unknown, with that space just outside our comfort zones, what makes that work is because you don't actually know what your answers are going to be. If you're doodling, you don't really know what you're going to draw next, and it doesn't really matter. You're just present in this moment and just trusting your intuition and just doing what's next, right? Same thing with noticing colors. You're just noticing, like, oh, there's a color there I wasn't even paying attention to, and there it is. That's the color of the day. And again, you're giving yourself permission to be intuitive and playful and take the pressure off. And when you start doing that on a regular basis, so if you can start to incorporate a little bit of play most days, you will grow leaps and bounds because you will become comfortable with not knowing and you will start to learn the language of your intuition. And that to me is crucial for any kind of personal growth or spiritual connection.
Okay, Brigitta, so your book, Landing on Your North Star, focuses on finding purpose. Why do so many people feel lost when it comes to discovering their direction in life? And also, why do many people chase money as if money is like looking for money is looking for their purpose?
Yeah, I think that at the time period we're living in right now, there's a lot of pressure for people to, quote unquote, know their purpose or quote unquote, find their purpose or quote unquote, live their purpose. There's a lot of pressure. And then, of course, if we feel like we're missing that mark, then we feel like we're failing at life, right? Because it's like, oh, I should know what I'm here for. And I think that's really not helpful. I think that's a detriment to most of us. And I think the self-help world has kind of led us in that direction. And my answer to that is your purpose is your value system. And it comes right back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this call. Are you living your values? More importantly, are your values actionable? So can you live those values? My quick reality check with people is, are your values showing up in your bank account? Are your values showing up in your day timer? Are your values showing up in your relationships with people? And that's work relationships, personal relationships, intimate relationships. Are your values showing up in your hobbies and in your travels? Are your values showing up in your spare time? Are your values showing up in your daydreams? That's important. And so if they aren't, if those values aren't showing up in your, checking account, and if they're not showing up in your day-to-day life, then that's the quickest way to find your purpose, to go back to your values, to figure out what's most important to you. And that's what we've written about in that book, is how to figure out what is your North Star, what are your values, really, truly, how to identify when you're going the wrong way. So when are you out of alignment with those values, and how to plot a journey and move forward in a direction that is in alignment with your values. To me, that is living your life purpose. It's not about what it looks like to anybody else judging you or anyone else's opinion. It's about how you feel at the end of the day when your head hits the pillow, asking yourself, did I live a life that I'm excited about? Did I live a life that feels in alignment with what matters most to me? That to me is living a life of purpose.
All right, Brigitta. So, for someone feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or uncertain about their next chapter, what is one step they can take today towards transformation?
Yeah, that's great, because overwhelm is when we're looking at too many things, or we're scattered and we're afraid that we're going to make the wrong choice. And then we kind of freeze, right? And then we end up making no choices. And then we sometimes feel bad about that. And then we start feeling shame and frustration with ourselves. And that can eat away at our self-esteem. So overwhelm's an important thing to acknowledge. First of all, of course, acknowledge that you're feeling overwhelmed and that you're stuck and that you're frozen, right? You might even be shutting down a little bit, or you might be completely distracted and, doom scrolling, or whatever it is that your particular way of distracting yourself is. So the first step, of course, is to acknowledge it. And then the next step to me is just take a moment and ask yourself again, what are those values? Now, if you don't know what your values are, if you haven't yet done that process of discovering what matters to you, one thing you can do is take a few minutes to just jot down some of your favorite memories. This is an exercise I give in the book, and I do this exercise with a lot of my clients. You just jot down a few of your favorite memories. You don't need to write them all out because they're your memories. You remember them well, and you remember why you love them. And that's the point. So next to those memories, you would write out, what was the feeling that you had when you were experiencing that? And you'll notice out of 3 or 5 or 10 memories, you're going to start to see the same feelings come up over and over and over again. And that's valuable information, because that feeling is how you feel when you're in alignment with your value. And chances are that feeling could be a value. So for me, for example, my favorite memories are when I'm feeling most connected, and when I'm really contributing, and when I'm being creative, and when there's humor, when there's play involved. Those 4 things are in every single one of my favorite memories, even in classes where I'm learning things, or big trips that I've taken, or times when I was a child. My favorite memories all have that nuance, that same idea of there's creativity, there's play, there's connection, there's contribution, and there's community there. And so for me to know those things, to know that information, now I can make a choice. So forget all the things I have on my to-do list, or not knowing what I'm supposed to do next. That's your answer. Do something that's going to tick one of those boxes of your values. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to figure out, how can I feel connection? Or how can I feel like I'm making a contribution today? Or how can I bring in some play, some creativity, a little bit of fun into today? And maybe if there's a way I can connect or contribute with that, that would be great. If I can do that, and I can, you'll notice all of those things are 100% in my control. Again, I'm not waiting for someone else to give me permission to live my values. I'm just actively pursuing them. So if I can do that, and I can, then I'm out of overwhelm, and now I'm moving. I'm actually moving in a direction, and that direction is in alignment with what matters most to us individually.
All right, Brigid. So, what does it mean to stop hustling for your self-esteem? I think a lot of people, they hustle for their self-esteem. They try to impress, they try to do some things, hustle for their self-esteem. So what does it mean to stop hustling for self-esteem? And how can someone begin building genuine self-worth?
Yeah. We've all done it, right? We've all done it. And when you're hustling for your self-esteem, when you feel like you have 2 full-time jobs. One job is your work, It's whatever you do every day, right? And then the other job is managing your anxiety because you're freaked out, stressed out, not sleeping, or you're unable to relax, or you're just looking to numb out at the first chance you have. That's a sign that you are hustling for your self-esteem versus hustling because you really want to hustle and create something exciting for yourself. That's a healthy hustle. Yeah. There is a difference. And so when you're hustling for your self-esteem, it's because you're not living by your values. You are living by something that someone else has control over. You are living by comparison, or you're living by please like me, or people pleasing. And so to me, a real quick turnaround is to, number one, acknowledge I'm doing it. I'm caught here. I'm caught up in that hustling for self-esteem. And when, like I said, when you're doing it because it feels awful and you're just wiped out and you're exhausted, or you're numbed out half the time. And so if any of that is happening, take a breath, love yourself for a hot second. It's okay. Acknowledge like, oh, there I go. I started hustling for my self-esteem again. And then bring it back to, why am I doing what I do? What am I doing again? Why am I doing this? And if it's to prove that I'm a good person or to prove that I'm lovable, that's a red flag. So if we can bring it back to your values, I'm sounding like a broken record, but it really is the key of again, I'll use myself personally. If I'm trying to get someone to like me, then I'm hustling for my self-esteem. If I'm trying to make a contribution, it's got nothing to do with whether that person likes me or not. Now, if they like me, that's a bonus. Awesome. Of course, I want them to like me. I want to be liked, but that's not my goal. My goal is to make a contribution in the best possible way. So once I shift from wanting to be liked, people pleasing, once I shift away from that and move more towards what matters to me here in this moment, it's making a contribution, then my self-esteem isn't up for grabs anymore. It's nobody has access to my self-esteem. So I am not hustling for it. I get to keep it. I build confidence that way. I build self-esteem. And I think actually when we live that way, we actually are more attractive to other people because we're more confident and we're more relaxed and we're more genuine.
Okay, Brigitta, thank you so much. So thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom with us today. The message reminds us that transformation doesn't require us to become someone else. It requires us to reconnect with who we truly are. So for listeners who want to learn more about you and your work or discover landing on your North Star, how can they do that?
Absolutely. There's a lot of ways. First of all, my website, brigittadau.com, is a great way to get in touch with me. I am 100% accessible. So you can email me, you can DM me on any of the social media. I'm Brigitta Dau Coaching on any and all socials. I read all of the DMs. I read all of my own emails. So reach out. I offer a lot of things online. I offer monthly coaching and Reiki classes online. I'm offering ongoing coaching, group coaching classes. I also offer one-on-one coaching online. So there's a lot of ways to work with me. And the book, Landing on Your North Star, is available wherever you love to buy books, including Amazon.com, of course. But it's also available through a lot of local bookstores, so you can always ask them to get it in for you.
All right, Bridget, thank you so much once again. I really appreciate you for coming to Control or Be Controlled.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Okay, so for my audience as well, thank you guys for joining. The reason why we are able to do this. Once again, make sure to check out Brigitte's work. As always, check out her work. So connect with her as well. Thank you all so much and see you guys on the next episode. All right.